What's up, you guys? Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday, everybody. Hey, hey, hey. Come on in, come on in, come on in. We're gonna probably have a small crowd today, but that's okay. I am streaming to my book club channel, which child, we ain't been on the book club channel in forever. But I did tell you guys we were gonna do this, but I never told you a date and time. But what I have been finding about my energy levels lately, and my time availability is I need to do it when I can do it. So I watched the movie last night. Um, so I watched the movie last night, and so I said, "Well, I'm gonna go ahead and do the review, because I want to go ahead and do it while it's still fresh, and before it'd be 2 weeks, and I'm like, oh no, I meant to do it." So the name of the book is called Earl. I mean, the Supremes Down at Earl's All You Can Eat, and then Hulu did a movie with Sanaa Lathan, and I always say her name wrong, but the woman who played Crazy Eyes on Orange is the New Black. Mekhi Phifer is in the movie. And it's another guy who you guys will recognize his face, is in the movie. So China said, I haven't been up to date. I didn't know we were reading a new book. Should I stay for spoilers? So let me say this, China. Let me say I'm sorry, because again, I did not tell you guys. I did say it. I did tell y'all I was going to do this. I just didn't give y'all a date and time. I told y'all to give me a couple of weeks, and that was like back in August. But I did tell y'all I was reading it and that we were going to talk about it because Hulu did the movie. So are there going to be spoilers? Yes, because I'm going to talk about the book and the movie. But do I think it's still worth? I'm going to try not to say too much so that people don't want to go and read it or go watch the movie. I'm going to try not to say too much, but I am going to talk freely about the book and the movie. You know what I mean? So first of all, let me say that I think the book is a 10 out of 10. And let me tell you why I think the book is a 10 out of 10 for me. The book is sorry, I meant to put this up on the screen. The book, hold on, let me do this. The book is a 10 out of 10 for me because it was not predictable. I honestly thought it had gotten to a point in the book where I just knew what was going to happen. I was like, okay, well, I know how this ends. Like, I really thought I had figured out how the book was going to end, and it absolutely did not end the way I thought it was going to end. And so for me, as much as many books that I have read in my life, and as much as I have read books, when you can surprise me when I think I figured out the ending, when I think I have figured out how this book is going to end, and it doesn't end that way, and you can surprise me, that is when I'm like, oh, well, that's a 10 out of 10. Especially a book like this where you're like, oh, we've seen this all before. We've seen this all before. When it's not what I've already seen, you got me. You know what I mean? Like, you got me. So I'm not going to necessarily tell y'all. That part I'm not going to tell y'all because I do not want to spoil that. But just know that I thought it was going to end a certain way, and it did not. What I also found out is that there is a sequel. I just found out that there's a sequel. And so I just downloaded the sequel to my Audible. Damn it. Why does this? I'm sorry, y'all. The same picture keeps coming up. Hold on. I'm trying to upload the picture of the book, and it keeps uploading the picture of the movie, so you guys can see what the book looks like. It's on the thumbnail, but still. Is this the right one? Okay, there it is right there. Okay. So that's what the book looks like. So if you go onto Audible or you go onto Amazon, then I put it in the wrong place. Hold on, I'm gonna take myself off screen so y'all can see it, because then I put it in the wrong place. I'm just having technical difficulties today, you guys. I really meant to upload it, but if you type it in, it'll pop up. And you know how they do whenever they make books into movies. The book now, the cover of the book now is probably the same thumbnail with Sanaa Lathan and everything, because y'all know that's what they do when they turn a book into a movie. Then they reprint the book. Then the new book covers have, you know, the people, the Sanaa Lathan and all of that. Let me see if it'll do it right. Okay, there it is. So this is the book cover. This is what shows up on my Audible. This is what shows up on my Audible. So you guys can see it. The Supremes at Earl's All You Can Eat. And then, like I said, the thumbnail that you may also see is the one that has Sanaa Lathan from Hulu. So yeah. As far as the movie is concerned, I'm going to give the movie an 8 out of a 10. And I'm going to tell you why I'm going to give the movie an 8 out of a 10. Because my favorite part of the book, they did not put in the movie. So it's a personal thing. For me, it's a personal thing. My favorite part of the book, they did not put in the movie. And I was like, now what you do that for? So let's talk a little bit about what it is. The book is about 3 Black women who became friends as teenagers and, of course, grew into middle age. So we meet them when they're like high school age. Well, it's one of those movies that flashes back. So we actually meet them at a crucial part where the book ends, and then you flash back and get the stories. So we have Odette, we have Barbara Jean, and we have Claudette. Is it Claudette? I think Claudette. All 3 of them have very interesting origin stories, like how they came into the world. So Odette's mother is this over the top personality. She's very like Odette was born in a sycamore tree, right? Because her mama was 10 months pregnant and went to a witch doctor to be like, get this baby out of me. What do I need to do? And the woman told her to climb up in the sycamore tree and sing her favorite gospel tune. And that was the legend of how she was born in the sycamore tree, right? But Odette's mother was also very, almost like what we might call today, like a seer or connected to the spiritual world. But very over the top, you know. Odette wore these ugly clothes because her grandmother made all of her clothes, and her grandmother and her mama were, you know, had like a terrible taste. What they thought was cute wasn't really cute, you know. And this takes place in, I want to say Alabama. It's either Alabama or Mississippi, but the rural South, right? Deep South. Then you had Barbara Jean. Now, Barbara Jean's mama was like the town hoe. Okay, she worked down at the Satin Slipper, which was, you know, the little script club, you know, and she accused like 4 different men of being Barbara Jean's daddy. And they all found out at the same time that they all were supposed to be the daddy. And then basically, so she ended up with no daddy for Barbara Jean. She died when Barbara Jean was in high school. But, you know, so that stayed with Barbara Jean. She also was had some substance abuse problems and stuff like that. So that played into it, right? Then we had Claudine. She was like a classic pianist that had an opportunity to go and record classic piano albums up in New York. She her father was a preacher, her mom, but her father also cheated on her father was always out cheating on her mama. And basically her mama, you know, made excuses for it, dealt with it, excused it, which carried over into how Claudine, I keep wanting to say Claudine, but I think it was Claudette. But it carried over into how she dealt with her life and her marriage. So we meet them. It's like the 1960s, and they're in this like rural town. So of course the racial underlies are there. Well, you know, that it does not take over the book. Like it doesn't. it's acknowledged, and there's even a very important storyline in the book that deals with the racial issues of the time, but it does not overpower the book. There's so much more there. Now, one of the main characters is a white boy whose brother is like the town racist. So that becomes a part of the storyline. They called him Chick because his brother had him living in a chicken coop. And everywhere he went, he had chicken feathers. So his name was Chick. All three of them end up married, and we get to see how they met their husbands, how that evolved. And so we sort of flash back between them being in high school and them all meeting and how they all became friends. And then it fast forwards to probably they're in their 50s at this point. So we kind of miss some of the middle. We get a few storylines about what happened along the way, but for the most part, we get the origin, and then we get where they are in the book. Still takes place. I think it's like it takes place like in the 90s. Like it's still not 2024. It's not present day. It's like the 90s because they meet in the 60s in their teens. And then this is all happening when they're like in their 50s, 40s, 50s, around that age. Because all of them are still working. The ones that have jobs, they're still working. They're not retired or anything like that. So they're probably in their 50s, I would say. But you could tell by the dress and stuff. Because as I was reading the book, thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Boo. As I was reading the book, that was a question I kept asking myself. I was like, what time is this? Like, is this supposed to be 2024? But I didn't feel like it was 2024 because I was like, if they were teenagers in the 60s, I mean, my parents were teenagers in the 60s, and I know how old my parents are. And so I said, well, this can't be 2024. This has to be like the 90s. But when I saw the movie, you could tell by the way they were dressed, and you could tell by the hairdos and stuff like that it wasn't supposed to be 2024. You could tell by the cars, the make and models of the cars, that it wasn't supposed to be 2024. So I feel like it's supposed to be like the 90s or something like that. Maybe late 90s, early 2000s, somewhere around there. But they don't really pay as much attention. Like that's a really, really, really a backdrop. Like they really don't pay a lot of attention or really acknowledge a lot about like the 80s. Like when they were teenagers, you definitely hear the Motown music. You definitely hear, you hear all of that. But the present day, they don't really play as much music and all of that stuff. So it's kind of hard to pinpoint it. And even when you look at the fashions, it's still hard to pinpoint because they're middle-aged fashions. So it's still not like you're going to be like, oh yeah, I know that was the 2000s because look at the sneakers they have on, or look at the jeans they have. You know what I mean? So when was the book originally published? That's a good question. I don't know, China. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know, though. That's a good question. Let me see. I can go into I know the sequel. I think the sequel is pretty recent. Hold on. Let me go into my Audible, my audio book, Audible. Let me go into my library. Earl's All You Can Eat. Let me see here. Let me get the information. Title details. Let me see. 2013. So it was it was originally published in 2013. So maybe the setting was supposed to be 2013. Because I still think maybe the setting was supposed to be 2013. Maybe. But the original was published, instead it was published in 2013. And then I just discovered that there is a sequel. So let me tell y'all what the sequel is. Let me see what year the sequel was published. I'm not listening to it yet. I'm actually listening to another book right now. Okay, the sequel came out in 2017. So yeah. Now I'm gonna be honest with y'all and tell y'all I don't think they're gonna make a movie out of the sequel. I haven't read the sequel yet or listened to the sequel, but I don't think they are. And not because the movie wasn't good, but I don't think Hulu did a good job of advertising. I don't think they probably got a lot of views on it. And y'all know it's money. Everything, for the love of money, right? So I don't know if they made enough money off of it to justify doing the sequel. Do I think? I think they could make this a series. Let me tell y'all something. We were talking the other day, and I don't remember what we had this conversation, child. I don't know if this was on a review or if this was a tribe meeting. I honestly don't remember. But we were talking about how the OWN network has really lost something since it's lost its scripted shows. This to me would have been a great scripted show on the OWN network. I definitely feel like the novel, the original novel itself, we definitely could have gotten, I would say easily 2 to 3 seasons out of the original novel if they spread out some of the storylines. I think that I haven't read the sequel yet, but if the sequel is just as good, we definitely could have gotten I think this would have been a great series. This could have really been a great series. Really, 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 really a really great series. And I thought the reason why it took me so long to get over to Hulu, because I thought Hulu did it as like a 5-part, like they did with Black Cake. I thought they had broken it down into episodes. When I saw it was just a movie, I was like, wow, I was a little disappointed because it's so many layers and it's so much. I mean, so you have these 3 women, like I said, they meet at the age of like in their teens. They don't really pinpoint, but they're in high school. They're still in school. And all of them have such interesting backstories. And then with them meeting their spouses, their future spouses, and going through the things that, teenagers go through and love and all of that good stuff. I just thought this would have, and I feel like, and I understand that sometimes you got to take what you can get. If they ain't offer you a series and they say we're going to do a movie, baby, you got to take the movie. But honestly, I really feel like this, I feel like we really could have made a movie. I mean, and it's not too late since they did do the sequel. I mean, we see it happen all the time where they make a movie out of a book and then they turn it into a TV show or series. But I think we could do it. Anyway. So the reason why, okay, so let me tell y'all, now this is a little spoiler, but it's not a big spoiler. So let me just tell you, let me start there. In the book starts off with Odette. And I thought Odette was going to be the narrator for the whole thing, but it doesn't. It rotates. It rotates around the 3 different women and what they're going through. But it starts with Odette waking up in the middle of the night with menopause. And she talks about how hot she is. She's having these hot flashes and she's, in the kitchen trying to get some water, but she just can't get cool. She said that she looks up and she sees her mama dressed in her Sunday's best, walking through, coming up the walkway, walking into her kitchen. And she said, I should have known you was going to show up, mama. How did you know? And her mom ended up having this whole conversation. And let me tell you something. I immediately knew. The minute she said her mama walked up in her Sunday best at 3:00 in the morning and walked right up into her house like it wasn't nothing, I said her mama dead. This is a ghost. I knew. Now, that's not a spoiler. This is in the first chapter of the book, y'all. I ain't giving y'all no spoilers. Well, I mean, I guess I am, but I'm not. Like literally, this is the first couple of pages of the book. I knew then. I said, oh, her mom, this is a ghost. Because she was way too cool and either is one of those real eccentric people, and it's just not out of the ordinary for her mama to show up at her house at 2:00 in the morning dressed in her Sunday's best, or her mother's a ghost. And what we find out is, yes, her mother, she can talk to the dead, and her mother could talk to the dead. Her mother was alive. She could talk to the dead, and Odette can now talk to the dead. So her mom, throughout the book, her mother comes to her at different parts of the book and talks to her about different things. And they didn't put that in the movie. And to me, that was, first of all, it was funny as hell because her mother is hilarious. Because her mother would show up at the most inopportune times and be talking to Odette. And of course, Odette can't like talk to her mom because she said, I tried to tell the people that I could see my mom and they thought I was crazy, so I don't tell them anymore. Um, Now there are some ghosts that her mother interacts with that I feel like they probably didn't want to include. Like her mama's best friend is Eleanor Roosevelt. You probably didn't want to include, like, I could see them not wanting to bring Eleanor Roosevelt into this, but it was funny because Eleanor Roosevelt is her best friend in heaven. But Odette always knew who was getting ready to die because her mother would see him. Her mother would be like, oh, I talked to so-and-so. Me and so-and-so were playing spades last night. And Odette would know, oh, well, if you were playing spades with so-and-so, that means so-and-so dead. One time, and this happened in the book, again, this isn't a major character, so I'm just giving you an example. One of her teachers from high school had died, but she lived alone, and she had died in her kitchen. And Odette's mom came to her and said, and Odette's husband is a police officer. So she said, can you let James know tell James to go check on Mrs. So-and-so. She's with us and she doesn't want her body to be found. I think maybe she was in her night clothes or something. And she don't want the world to find her in her night clothes. So can you tell James to just go over there and take her some cobbler or something so he can find her because she's been laying there for 2 days. Like, that's the kind of stuff. Like, like she's here with me. And she was like, can you send James over to her house? Because she landed in the kitchen floor. She died cooking dinner, something like that. So I personally felt like they missed the mark by not including that. Because I thought that was a really, really, really... Again, I thought it was funny, but it's important to the story and how they bring certain things to the screen and how we find out about certain things. Now they found a way to do it, obviously, in other ways, but that was my favorite part of the book. So that's why I didn't give the movie a 10 out of 10, because I ain't like that. But it's a good book. I mean, it's a good movie. It's a really, really good movie. I think they did a really good job about it. So Earl owns the All You Can Eat, right? It's like a little diner. And he lets the kids come in there on Friday nights and play the jukebox and dance and drink malt and do the things that kids did in the 60s, And it was a safe space because the whole town knew Earl, and they knew that Earl was going to watch their kids. So it was a safe space for the kids to hang out. And that became like their staple. And Earl even nicknamed them the Supremes. So that's where they got their name from. They got their name from Earl. So that's where the title comes from. The Supremes at Earl's All You Can Eat Diner. And even when we pick up every Sunday after church, the Supremes and their spouses all come to Earl's for dinner, and they do their thing. So I thought, so like I said, I think the book is a great, great book. It's a really well-written book. And the fact that it's written by a man, no disrespect to men, but the fact that it's written by a man about 3 Black women, I think he did a really, really good job of writing for women without it seeming like he was patronizing or minimalizing. I mean, like I said, the first chapter of the book is about Odette going through menopause and dealing with all the things that come with menopause. So I thought, well, let me say this. I'm assuming he's a man. Let me not assume. I mean, his name is Edward Kelsey Moore, so I'm going to assume it's a man. But I think he did a really good job writing. Hey, Powerful. I think he did a really good job writing about Black women. Not sure his age, but I think he did a really good job of capturing. Somebody on Twitter said this movie is what Tyler Perry should be doing all this time. It really is. Listen. And Xavier, hey boo, I think, I don't know if you were in here when I said that. I said this to me would have been a perfect example of, thank you, SC Boo, would have been a perfect example of like a scripted series that OWN could have picked up. Like, I definitely could see 4 to 5 really good seasons out of just the first book. And they really didn't change a lot. I mean, some storylines they didn't go as deep into, or they took a couple of parts of the story out because again they had to fit it all into a 2-hour movie. But I don't think, you know how sometimes they turn books into movies and they leave out stuff that you think is important. I don't feel like they did that. I feel like had I not read the book, it was a cohesive story from beginning to end. And I love the characters just as much watching the movie as I did um reading the book. You know what I mean? The director Tina Mari got her start directing Queen Sugar. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. But yes, it was a black female director, Tina Mari, or person of color, I should say. But I'm trying to think of what else I want to tell y'all without going too deep into, because I don't want to do too many spoilers. But well, I'll tell you a little bit about their spouses, because again, you get all of this in the first couple of chapters. So Claudette ends up marrying Richmond. Richmond was like the star football player in college that, obviously didn't go to the NFL and become a millionaire. But he does well. He works for the college, he coaches and does recruiting and stuff like that. So he makes a decent living. Claudette decided to marry him and not pursue her dreams of being a classic pianist because she wanted a family, she wanted a husband. So that's their story. Again, the book and the movie goes into more details. Odette husband is James, and James loves Odette's dirty draws. Do you hear me? Like, James is the kind of husband that we all wish we had. Okay, James, I'm not saying he's a perfect man, but when I say he loved that woman, he loved that woman. When I say he was a good husband, he was a good husband. When I say he was a good man, Savannah, he was a good man, Savannah. Okay. And she almost let him go by. She almost let him go by. Okay. Because James, was a hard worker, and he ain't have time for a lot of the teenage things that teenagers do. And he was already working and taking care of the family and stuff as at a young age. So she almost let him pass her by. But but they have a good life. They have a good life. They're like middle class. Like I said, he was in law enforcement, and she had a job. And then you have Barbara Jean. Now, Barbara Jean's story out of all of them is the most complicated and really the saddest. That's the character that Sanaa Lathan plays. She really had, like, baby, if heartache was a name, it was Barbara Jean. Okay. Like I said, it starts with how she was born, child. She was born down to the script club with her mama telling 4 different men that he was the daddy. And the fact that 4 different men believed that they could be the daddy, that already tell you what you need to know about her mama. Okay. And I mean, with a mama like that, you can only imagine that her childhood wasn't the best, right? And then her mom died when she was in high school. And then again, we get into that. She ends up marrying, oh shoot, what was her husband's name? Lawrence? Was it that don't sound right? Lawrence don't sound right. I feel like it starts with an L, but Lawrence don't sound right. But she marries him, but he was like an older man who basically just wanted to, like, Lester. Thank you, Xavier. I knew it was an L. Lester was an older man who fell in, because Barbara Jean was beautiful. Like, in the book, she is written as this beautiful, 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 light skin. Of course, they got to get into the colorism part of it. All the men were in love with Barbara Jean. Everybody loved, because she was gorgeous. She was beautiful. But probably the most insecure out of the 3 of them as far as that, because her mother made her that way. But Lester wanted to, he was in love with her. He thought she was gorgeous, but he wanted to save her. And so they get married. But again, out of the 3 characters, Barbara Jean, to me, is probably, her story is probably the most layered, the most complicated. And like I said, if they had made this into a series, I mean, Barbara Jean, they condensed her story so much in the movie. They took so many parts out of her story in the movie. But again, it still told the story. Like, you still walked away knowing what you needed to know. But they definitely took a lot out of it. What else? The other major part of the story of the book that they took out for the movie was this storyline with Claudette's cousin. Was Claudette's cousin and her daughter, and her daughter was getting married, and Claudette's cousin was like, you know, this is the nasty girl, the mean girl, I got a little bit of money and I'm looking my nose down at everybody else. My daughter is going to have the best wedding this town has ever seen. I was okay with them cutting that out because it was cute. Clarice, thank you. I've been saying her name wrong all along, Xavier. That's why I need you, boo. It was cute for the book, and it did flow with other stuff that was happening in the book, but it was okay that they cut it out for the movie. It really would have been a distraction that we didn't need. It would have been a distraction that we really didn't need. You know what I mean? So I thought that was good. Yeah, I thought that was really good. Overall, for those of you that are just coming in, so we're talking about The Supremes at Earl's All You Can Eat, which was a book that they turned into a Hulu movie. I didn't realize the book was that old, though. The book was originally published in 2013, and then the sequel was in 2017. So I do have the sequel and it is on Audible, and the person who did it on Audible was really good. I recommend it. Y'all know sometimes these Audible voices are not great, but the person that did the Audible, they did a really, really good job with the Audible. Because I have tried to listen to some books on Audible and I can't, because they do such a horrible job with the voices. It's a book I'm reading. It's what I'm listening to right now. I'm trying to push through, but yes, Xavier. I just found out there was a sequel the other day. Here's the sequel right here. The sequel right here is called The Supremes Sing the Happy Heartache Blues. The Supremes Sing the Happy Heartache Blues. And it's a sequel. When I say I just found out earlier this week, I just found out, and I'm not, I'll probably start the book that I'm listening to now. I'll probably listen to that, maybe next week. I'll probably get to that next week. I usually go to the Audible for memoirs. Okay. Yeah, I mean, so the thing is this. Lord, me and this light child. Here's what I've decided. And I told you guys, we've been trying to do this book club channel for probably 3 years now. Part of the problem is my bandwidth. I do not have the bandwidth to do the channel the way I originally wanted to do the channel, which is read a book and for us to do like 2 or 3 chapters at a time, come down here, discuss those 2 or 3 chapters. I don't have the bandwidth for that. I just don't. Not right now. Not with me still trying to do all the things that I have to do. So what I have decided is over the last 6 months, I have either read or listened to some really good books. So what I've decided that I'm going to do is I'm going to come down and I'm either going to do pre-records and just do a book review of the actual book. Or I may do a live where I'll talk about the book live without giving too many spoilers. It's hard to do a book review and not talk about the book at all. But like with this one, I haven't told you guys enough that you feel like you've read the book. You know the main characters. You know that they got married. I told you what I like that they didn't. That about the book, comparing it to the movie. But honestly, I literally have told you maybe 10 to 15% of what's in that book. You absolutely can go and read the book and be like, oh, okay. Because even what I told you about Odette and seeing her mom, like that is the first chapter. That's the first chapter. And even finding out about how all of them were born, that's the first chapter or the first couple of chapters. So what I've decided is I will probably come down here and either do uploads or do a live talking about the book that I've read. So let me tell y'all, and I know China White was like, damn it, this light. I know China White was like, I didn't know. So let me tell y'all, and I'll put it on the community wall, but let me tell y'all the names of the books that I have read over the last couple of months so you guys can know what I'm going to be talking about. So I listened to Watch Where They Hide, which is the Tamron Hall book. It's the sequel to the book we did talk about that book last year. I think the name of the book, her first novel was While They Were Watching. I think it was called something along those lines. And this was a sequel to it. We knew that we knew that it was going to be a series of books because she wrote. It's a main character, is a Black woman who's a newscaster, but also has a background in forensic science, and she sort of like is an investigative reporter, but also sort of solves crimes. So we knew if there was going to be another book because she told us this was going to be a series of books. So I read that one. So we're going to talk about that. I literally just got done David Baldacci. I don't know if it's his newest book, but it's called A Calamity of Souls. Hold on, let me see what the publishing date on that one is. Okay, yeah, that is new. That was released April of 2024. So that is, and I love David Baldacci. If you're not familiar with David Baldacci, I love his books. I'm trying to think of I'm trying to think of the books that you guys will probably know because I think some of his books have been made into movies or TV shows. Is David Baldacci the one that does he do the Harry? No, that's the Lincoln Lawyer. The guy that wrote the Lincoln Lawyer does the Harry Bosch novels. That's not David Baldacci. Anyway, I like David Baldacci. I love David Baldacci. So this is his newest novel. Well, it was published in April. So we're going to talk about that book. I literally just finished that last week. You have whose new book? Tamron Hall's new book? Okay. So China White, go ahead and read it because we're going to talk about that one. I read Summer on the Bluffs by Sunny Hostins. Summer on the Bluffs by Sunny Hostins. And she has a couple of sequels to that. So I'm going to read the sequels, but we will talk about Summer on the Bluffs. And then there's another one here, Desperate Deadly Widows. So Deadly Widows was a book I read. It was one of those free Audible books, but it turned out to be really good. And then they wrote a sequel. So we're going to talk about that as well. I think I may do them both at the same time because both of them are good. And it was free on Audible. It was one of those books that, you know how Audible has those free ones. So I think I didn't have anything to read at the time. And I was like, Deadly Widows. Let me check this out. It's really good. So we're going to talk about that. I'm trying to think of what else new. I started reading the book, Miss Pearlie's Girls. Child, I still got 7 hours left. And I'm going to try to get back to that, but it was okay. It was just getting on my nerves because I felt like every chapter was the same thing. But I'm going to try to finish it for y'all. Michael Connolly, that's the Lincoln Lawyer and the Harry Bosch, and I like him. I like Michael Connolly. The House of Hidden Meanings. Did we ever talk about RuPaul's book, The House of Hidden Meanings? I know I told y'all about going to see him, but did we ever talk about the book? I don't remember. I think. And right now I'm listening to a book called The Law of Karma by Pamela Samuel Jung. I love Pamela Samuels Young. Pamela Samuels Young has written some really great books. She's an attorney. She's from the DC area, I believe. Either she's from the DC area or she has family in the DC area, because that's how I first was introduced to her. I went to an event where she was there, and at the time she like was doing like self-publishing. But the first book I read by her was so good, and she's actually written some really good books. But this is her newest book, and even in the foreword she was saying thank you for helping me get my mojo back, because she kind of went, I'm not gonna say she disappeared, but she went a different direction for a while. The last two books that I saw from her, I personally didn't want to read them based on the subject matter. I think one book was about a little girl who was being bullied and then she unalived herself, and I didn't want to read that. The book itself was about the family's fight because they had told the school and the school didn't do what they were supposed to do and all of that. But I wasn't interested in reading a book about that I just didn't want to read it. And then there was another book that she wrote, and the subject matter again, it was about missing children or abused children or something. Again, it was that whole children thing. So I don't know if she went through something in her life that made her kind of go down that path. They were probably really good books. I just didn't want to read it. You know what I'm saying? But this one was published. Yeah, this is published in February of 2024. But I have read like 3 of her other books that are really good. And they usually deal with the 3 of her books were about an attorney in LA, a Black attorney in LA, and kind of her going through, the ups and downs of being an attorney while going through her trials. So those books I would recommend. And I'm not saying I wouldn't recommend the other ones. It was just the subject matter just wasn't my thing. It just, I wasn't interested. So yeah, so that's kind of the direction. Again, I'm going to try to put the list up and let you guys know. So you will have a time for those of you that are saying that some of those books you had in your library or you were going to read them. So that gives you kind of time to read them. Because I don't have as much content, I'm aiming for like once a week. If I can put something up on that channel once a week, that's my goal. Until I can, put more into it. But I think I have about 5 or 6 books that I just read. I just told you guys about. If I can do one video a week or do one live a week talking about one of those books, that takes me, that gives me a month and a half of content. So yeah, if I can do like once a week, right now I'm not even like stressing people out about subscribing to the channel or anything right now. I want to try to get to the point where I know I'm putting regular content over there, and then I can be like, all right, you guys, can we, we're gonna get this. But right now, if you're subscribed, great. If you're not, I'll let you guys know when I'm going live or when I'm uploading a video over there. But if you're not subscribed, the channel is Really Be TV Reads. Really Be TV Reads. That's the channel. Okay. So with that being said, y'all, I'm about to get out of here. Y'all know when you think you don't have anything to do and then you find out you had something to do. Like I thought I was like, okay, I gotta go to the hairdresser. I said I'm gonna get my car washed. I need to go get these eyebrows done because baby, woof woof. And then I have to go by UPS because I got to send something back to Amazon. And I was like, I'm going to do those things. And then I'm going to come home and I'm going to chill the rest of the day. And I'm going to do some reviews. I'm going to do, I was like, I'm going to do some YouTube stuff. And then my mama hit me up and was like, so you coming over your cousin's house? I was like, that's today? So, yeah. So I'm about to get ready. I'm about to get out of here. I got a load of clothes in a wash. I got to put them in the dryer because all of my jeans are dirty. And I should have been washing clothes and I didn't. So I'm gonna be here for about another hour because I'm about to put them clothes in the dryer. And to be honest with you, I might just put 1 or 2 things in the dryer so I can get them jeans dry and then put the rest of them in the dryer on my way out the door so I can get out of here because I didn't do any of that other stuff. Once I found out that I had something to do today, I was like, well, I'm gonna just go home. Because my hair appointment was at 8 o'clock. So it's like I'm just gonna go home and do this video and then I'll go out because I probably won't be back home until about 7 or 8. I know I ain't gonna feel like doing nothing at 7 or 8 o'clock. So, all right, you guys. Thank y'all. I hope you guys have a great Saturday. Enjoy your weekend, and I will talk to y'all later. Mwah. Peace.